What do you think of the energy generated here tonight?
Yeah, it's pretty good, but it's very good music. It's stomping music.
In many ways, the commercial rave scene was little more than a counterculture manifestation of Thatcherism, in that much of the original ecstasy that had reached Britain during the late 1980s was to become heavily adulterated with a whole variety of benign and harmful contaminants, as the gangsters and criminals who controlled the drugs' production, distribution and importation put profit not only before people, but even the physical safety of their customers.
Any club, from a business point of view, will always be judged for its economic value. I think the age of materialism and this economic plenty is diminishing, and through parties, through clubs, there is a spiritual awakening, even if people don't know it, that is coming back to the West, and that is the thing that will flourish. It has to lead on to something spiritual. I don't really like the term spirituality, it's bandied around. If people can become centred, that's a start. If they can live their lives in a normal way, I don't mean in a fake way, which constitutes consumerism, living a life that's been sold them through advertising, which they don't necessarily like or want or can even live up to, then that's a start. If they can just get back to zero and go from there, they don't necessarily have to be spiritual, but if they can just become centred. Any club is a business, and you know that's obvious, it's in the Western world, but that is not the point of doing it. The point is to turn England on again, and England is the place that it's about to happen. It is happening in England. It's a centre for all sorts of things. It's happening.
And so the stage was set for an all-new globalised dance music craze rooted in the original free-thinking spirit of the first generation of Goa trance dancers. What happened next, however, was to take everything in a completely different and unexpected direction entirely. August 1992, the Gallery nightclub in London's exclusive Kings Road, Chelsea. Mark and his fellow collaborators are busy getting out their props for their first official, fully fledged, legal Goa trance club night in a venue just around the corner from the Wandsworth Bridge Road flat, where I would interview them in the coming weeks. As 1970s John Travolta-esque kitsch combines with this season's Goa fluoro trance dance fashion, the buzz outside in the street on the King's Road itself is about to light up the nightclub with some of the most exciting new sounds in years, many of which have only just evolved out of continental Belgian new beat in the studios of Germany and Holland, and have never been heard on any UK dance floor until this precise moment in time.
No, evidence. Everything, man. Honestly, we're not making any money. Drinking, man.
Amongst those present at an event no less important in terms of the overall evolution of British popular music as some of the earliest gigs by The Clash and the Sex Pistols is George Barker, future lover of top-level tabloid celeb Sienna Miller. Upstairs on the roof of the nightclub itself, overlooking the traffic-congested King's Road, some of the punters are having fun.
Respect to the DJ.
Inside on the dance floor, the evening has got off to a good start.
Alright lads.
Meanwhile, out in the foyer of the nightclub itself, many of the punters are signing into the visitors book so as to put themselves on the exclusive Panjar's floating focal point party list as a means of receiving up-to-the-minute information of the latest exclusive Goa trance events across the capital in the coming months. Amongst those in attendance in the coming weeks is the well-heeled aristocratic socialite Elizabeth Libbit Paravicini, later arrested on drug importation charges, Jazz Summers, the apparent financial muscle behind Big Live Records and an alleged financier of Ian St Paul's later second-gen Goa trance derivative events, Annabelle Simmons, musical collaborator with Youth, producer of The Orb and the equally successful Drum Club, self-styled producer DJ Grant Lucking, a member of George Barker's social circle and now a musical force in his own right. Sophie Barker, at that time working with Slinky Wizard's Ronnie Biggs on some trance-related collaborations. Gervais Thorpe, one of several well-heeled socialites apparently destined to die under tragic circumstances. Lady Louisa Stewart, cousin of Jamie Murray, the Scottish aristo accused of the date rape of a teenage girl. And Theo Simon, nudie protest frontman of eco-activist festival band Seize the Day. Others taking part in some of these earliest Goa trance-oriented events include Juno Reactor's Mike Maguire, Mark Allen and DJ Crisbo of Return to the Source, soon to be joined by Antipodean Chris Decker, along with Tintin and Mixmaster Morris, pictured here at Panjar's Swiss Cottage Christmas Bash in December 1992. As with the punk thing, many of those who were to start out in the audience would soon end up behind the decks, as in the case of DJ Felix, sometime partner and collaborator with veteran uptown party set socialite Solo Peacock. That night back at the gallery, everyone knew that something was in the air as the stage was set for an all-new youth culture music movement with its very own dress style, outlook and ideology akin to punk, rave and the first generation psychedelic hippies from the equally exclusive UFO club set who had preceded them all back on the streets of swinging London during the 1960s. As one would expect with any upper crust social set, the drug-taking aspect of the King's Road nightclub dance scene was for many of them just a sideshow. To this elite group of uptown, Oxbridge, Old Etonian, Champagne and Charlie, Pims and Purple Haze partygoers, Mark Maurice and the ideas that he represented, particularly with regard to using dance music to break down the social divide, were just something to be laughed at. And if the thing became too much of a threat, croquet hammered into the long grass and covered up with fermented lawn trimmings, so as to take the control of the parties and the energy that he was creating into the hands of an elite coterie of drug dealers and their aristocratic patrons, thus moving the centre of what was going on away from the hoi polloi of which Mark, with his working class Jack the Lad origins and his former career as a car painter in a garage workshop, was almost certainly one. Oh look, here's one of them skinning up. And here's George Barker again, as if you haven't guessed. This is the kind of social gathering that David Cameron and George Osborne would have found themselves being invited to on a regular basis at the tail end of their respective public school days and throughout their university careers. The kind of society enjoyed by members of the Bullingdon Club when not out beating up some smaller working class oiks incapable of giving any of them a run for their money in a drunken post-rugby match street brawl. The fundamental difference between the drug experiences of this elite little group of Sloane Rangers and their lower middle and working class contemporaries, however, is what they can expect to find themselves on the receiving end of when the punishments are meted out in court by way of criminal penalties if any of them get caught with something that they shouldn't have, particularly if they don't have a barrister or stockbroker father who is going to send a solicitor round to bail them out. And, as is even more likely, the solicitor in question hasn't got a ready supply of cash with which to fill any expectant law enforcer's top pockets. At least, that is, if the former 60s gangster Charlie Richardson's autobiography is in any way to be believed. In a few minutes we shall focus on the case of Elizabeth Paravicini, niece of Camilla and Andrew Parker Bowles, as a valid case in point. It's the morning after the night before, and a high-camp comic book charade of homosexual flirtatiousness now ensues amongst the participants of the previous evening's bacchanal, some of whom are clearly the worse for wear. This is the kind of inbred public school hijinks that no one from the elite upper-crust backgrounds from which these people hail would like your average person to see, particularly as many of these people may well be running the country.
Pudgy. Little sexy little shifty dancing there.
Commonwealth House, London, 25th of September 1992. The first in a series of major setbacks for Mark Maurice and his fellow collaborators is about to occur, just as they are making ready to take the all-new Goa trance scene well and truly overground. As we shall now see from this archived VHS copy of their own home movies, this same little gang of Sloane Ranger socialites we encountered earlier seem to have had access to all areas that include the bar before the gig actually got underway. as well as the backstage areas that one would normally expect to find off limits to anyone other than those actually organising the event. Perhaps then it should come as no surprise that during the course of the evening that followed, all of the ticket takings on the door mysteriously went walkies. Here's Mark, oblivious to what is going on and what was about to happen. And here they are again. Don't you just love them?
Yeah, following the suits of the jelly maker in there.
What's up in the ball?
Take note of the face in the leather jacket for later. This guy's presence could well be significant. It's that Valkyrie wannabe with the padded bra. Oh no, time for more high camp, high jinks. This is not the first time that the money has gone missing from a Goa trance event linked to this same little network of party people. Needless to say that the last time this happened, this particular gentleman is alleged to have been one of those on the door. Here is the same little crew again at another event a few weeks later. And what do they seem to be doing? Selling tickets outside.
Gamble if you wanna.
Tickets, yeah. Lesbians, cats, right? Anything.
Nah, man. I won't get in, man. I won't get in.
So whose party is it anyway?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm trying to record a man so he can shut up and...
Kurgan. Right,
Here comes Rob Stevens again.
There's one rule about having a party. Don't do it.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mama. How are you?
These people are just so sophisticated. What?
He didn't really mean that. He didn't mean that at all.
There's that beast. What's happening in there?
More scintillating party banter from the Sloane Ranger dinner party set.
Oh man, too much.
Sick preview.
Those not being Chippendale.
Meanwhile, on the other side of the car park, people are enjoying a quiet herbal cigarette.
Manja! Your bottom!
But what of the working classes, the not working classes, the oiks and the smudges? On the other side of town, sound systems like Spiral Tribe, who at this precise point in time were still fighting to get their gear back after the highly publicised Castle Morton affair, are in the process of being criminalised by the then Home Secretary and soon-to-be Tory leader Michael Howard, for whom David Cameron has been working as a political advisor. In due course, the extent of the double standards and hypocrisy will be immediately apparent. Panjar's Christmas Bash 1992, the last official event at which Mark and his fellow collaborators will be working together as a single cohesive unit. As the evening draws on, two key figures begin to emerge as major players on the scene they have done so much to develop. a shady French Algerian and alleged drug smuggler named Hassan, himself allegedly implicated in the clandestine procurement of the drugs that Camilla Parker Bowles' niece will get herself nicked with coming through customs, whilst successfully escaping the probable prison sentence that you or I would have been sentenced to for the same amount. And former Quintessence flute player and apparent 60s acid casualty Ron Rothfield, aka Raja Ram, whose links to David Cameron we will now attempt to examine and get into proper context. Remember that signing in book from that Gallery nightclub event on the King's Road a few months earlier? Well, here's Raja Ram's daughter Sastra's name second from the bottom and fifth from the top. Whilst here she is again, along with a group of people whose identities we have disguised, with the exception of what is alleged to be Claire Cameron. Here's one of those famous wedding photos of the planned Cameron wedding, in which Dave, Sam, Cam and Claire are all clearly visible. Sastra Rothfield is allegedly to the left of our view. Here's some more footage of Ron Rothfield, aka Raja Ram, at the Panjaya Christmas Bash back in 1992. What he is alleged to be doing now is passing an E or an LSD trip to a girl who just so happens to be with Hassan, the alleged French-Algerian drug smuggler. Watch carefully to the right or you'll miss it. And there we go. Looks like the girl in the foreground is on one too. Now, just in case you missed it, let's watch that sequence again in slow motion and without the music this time. Poetry in motion. So what was he passing her? More about that in a minute.